folks. I'm Pastor Steve Herring, stated supply pastor at the Pine Tops Presbyterian Church, the Cobb Memorial Presbyterian Church, and the Nahala Presbyterian Church. Today is Wednesday, the 2nd of December, and we're going to do a little Bible study and discussion today regarding the patterns that we encounter and ways of understanding the situations that we get into, the stresses and problems that we run into in the course of our lives. Now, those of you, if you follow this Bible study and you are interested in this way of framing problems and this way of sort of setting up a problem-solving pattern for ourselves, I have this essay that I wrote called 4 Visions of the Good Life. And this was the Keihin lecture that I gave at Edgecombe Community College back in 2018, 2 years ago, that won the Keihin Prize at Edgecombe Community College. So it has a certain amount of value, and the way I put this together was by a lot of thought about how to approach the various sorts of problems that we have in our lives. And I'm going to begin with a scripture from Matthew chapter 24, one verse that Jesus spoke, which to my way of thinking, frames the way we can understand his words. And this is Matthew 24, verse 35. And this has to do, by the way, with the end times teachings of Jesus. Matthew 24 is Jesus' teaching regarding the end of days. And at the end of of his teachings, we have this little statement that Jesus makes. Now, I'll just go ahead and start reading from verse 32, give you a little bit better context. Jesus says the following: "From the fig tree, learn its lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also when you see all these things, you know that he is near at the very gates." And when it says he is near at the very gates, it's talking about the day of God, or Jesus's return. And in fact, he is near at the very gates. "Truly I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away." Now, let me just take you into this scripture briefly. Matthew 24 covers all of the signs of the end, all of the signs of the end of days. Now, most people, when they see this verse 33 that says, verse 34 that says, "This generation will not pass away till all these things have taken place," people get in the idea that, well, that means that this is the end of days. And it is. But it's also the beginning of days. It's the end of days, and it is the beginning of days. Let me take you to earlier in Matthew 24, Matthew 24:7. "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All this is but the beginning of birth pains." what I draw from these scriptures is the idea that every ending is a new beginning, and every beginning also marks an ending. You see, we live in a world filled and completely made up, completely operating with beginnings and endings. Stuff ends, other stuff begins. And we tend to get all bent out of shape when something ends and we don't want it to end. And we get all bent out of shape when something begins that we don't want to begin. But throughout the world, stuff begins, stuff ends. Now, Jesus says, and in verse 35, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. Now, I just love that, because heaven and earth will pass away. You see, everything on this earth is changing. Nothing on this earth is eternal. Everything changes. Take the example of a rock. That rock seems to be very stable. And the only reason it seems to be stable is that the changes that that rock undergoes are happening so slowly that we can't see it. And so we get the idea that this rock is not changing. Let me have you turn the camera for a second, Peter, to this fireplace here in Pine Tops, this beautiful fireplace. I'm going to move this love seat, and we're going to look at this brick over here. Okay, I'm just going to pull this over for a second. Okay. See, I'm rearranging the furniture in the parlor, but I'm going to put it back where it belongs. Okay. All right. Now, I want you to notice this beautiful brick fireplace here. Now, this parlor at the church here in Pine Tops is just one of the most phenomenally beautiful and comfortable rooms. And every time I come in this room, I thank the people of this church who have done such a fantastic job of maintaining this gorgeous little room. This is a very useful room that we have here at the church. In this is built this fireplace. And it is wonderful, and it's a real fireplace. I'm putting my hand up here, and I have my hand on the damper. It doesn't appear that this fireplace has been used. This is black paint. These are gas logs, which were given as a memorial to the church. Notice the brickwork. Okay. Is this brickwork eternal or temporary? Think about it for a second. Okay, think about it for a second. Is it eternal or is it temporary? Now, you might say that it will. It's certainly going to last a really long time. This is expert masonry. These bricks are not subject to. You can get them wet. The wood is much more temporary, right, than the brick, right? This wood is subject to more rapid changes if the roof leaks or whatever thing may happen over the years that this place is in use. The brick is much more stable, okay? It lasts longer. But it's still temporary, because time will cause eventually probably not in my lifetime, possibly not in your lifetime, right? But in some time, this church will eventually stop being used for the purpose that it's being used for. Something will happen. 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years, 500 years, 600 years. Somewhere in that expanse of time, these bricks will be somewhere else. They will be, they are only temporary, okay? Just like a stone is only temporary. Now I'm going to move the furniture back, and we'll just turn back. Actually, why don't we just turn back to the table? I will put the room back together when we are finished. Go back this way to my little chair here. Now, that having been said, this wonderful scripture of Jesus that says, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. Now, that is just wonderful. My words will not pass away. What this does is it takes us to think about the words of Jesus. And I don't want to think about it, I don't encourage you to think about it in terms of the text, because the text may or may not survive here on earth very many thousands of years. It may not. The text itself, we don't know what will become of the text. But the meaning of the text, that's the part you want to look at. You want to look at the meaning of the text. And the reason I say that is to take you into John's Gospel, John chapter 1, verse 1. John 1:1 says, in the beginning was what? The Word. In the beginning was the Word. The Word, a word is its meaning. Any word is, if somebody says to you, what is a word? You know, what is a word? A word is a sound. It is something that means something. It doesn't have to be a sound. It can be written. It can be communicated in a variety of ways, but it has meaning. Okay? Book. Book has meaning. You understand what book means. If I just make a noise like whop, that has no meaning, you see. That's not a word. That's a noise. But a word means something. So when Jesus says, my words will not pass away, what he's saying is that the meaning of his teachings, the meaning of his existence, the meaning of his identity is eternal. And so the study of the words of Jesus is the study of what is eternal, what is beyond the temporary limitations of this world in which we live. The temporary limitations. The words of Jesus are words that last forever by virtue of what they mean, by virtue of the lesson, that which guides us through what is temporary into what is eternal. Just a real quick thing on word. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Heavens and earth. The earth was formless and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. God said. let there be light. And there was light. God spoke words. Let there be light. And it is that word that brings us right back to John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word. In the beginning was the meaning of everything. The meaning of all that would transpire in creation. That meaning gave us that word. That word is what lasts forever. The heavens and the earth and everything on them and everything in them is temporary. It is the meaning that lasts forever. Now that's where I'm going to stop part 1. I'm going to go ahead and stop part 1 here, and then I'm going to pick up with part 2 of this 4-part series.